Love Daddy-O and jazz ladies out there. This is your boy Satchel Armstrong, broadcasting live from the cabaret in the sky. And when I'm not busy doing my soloing on my two horn, I just tune into the artivist presents We All Be News and Radio. Oh, yeah.
This is We All Be News and Radio.
Ron Hurd. Get up out of bed. Let's go. Let's go. Ron Hurd. That's the word. Get out of bed. Give me a jingle. My number 051. Get out of bed. Let's go. Don't be afraid. This is Herb Smith calling you. Herb Smith. All right, I know you're famous and all that kind of stuff, but let's go. Get out of bed.
All right, welcome, family, back to another wonderful edition of the Artivist Presents We All Be Radio. We are coming back off of, I guess, 1 year hiatus. I wasn't expecting to come back so soon, but it's been a topic that's been on my mind since I went down to the ATL several weeks ago. This is a very important topic. I think it needs to be addressed, and we're dealing with black liberation and homosexuality. Are they compatible? And as you all know, I see some people already on the line. They're ready to get their say in. But before we do all that, we have our special guest on the air with us. We got Brother Dr. Jahi Issa. Are you there? Dr. Issa?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, cool, man. Welcome to the show, man. Dr. Issa, he's a professor extraordinaire, a proud black nationalist and Pan-Africanist extraordinaire, also former teacher at Delaware State University, was dismissed under strange circumstances, and also been investigating a one-man army crusade lynchings of black men in Delaware State in the recent years. How you doing today?
Oh, brother, I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me on to talk about this very, very important topic. I'm not an expert in this. I'm just jumping into it. But
okay.
I think there's a lot of guys who do have a lot more expertise in this. But, hey, I'm going to try my best to deal with it from a holistic point of view.
Well, that's what it's all about here, man. We're all about educate and liberate, circulate to educate, to liberate, and not to indoctrinate. You know, so on the other end of that spectrum, we got Brother Cleo Manago, who is a social architect and the creator and founder of very two successful nationally recognized organizations, Black Man Exchange and also Amasi Health Care Centers. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, brother. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm blessed and highly favored, so I have you two wonderful brothers on. So, like you said, today's topic, of course, is black liberation and homosexuality. Are they compatible? And now, like I said, this has been like a show that's been weeks in the making. It's been on my mind a lot. I met you two extraordinary brothers in Atlanta on an invite only by the Honorable Cynthia of McKinney, and we got into this subject the second day. So, for all intents and purposes, let's just get into this, fellas. I know y'all been talking back and forth from different shows and among yourselves through email exchanges and on Facebook. Who like to start the first? Who like to shoot the first shot in this interesting topic?
Well, I think that it's a good idea for Dr. Issa to do it because I'm here at an invitation because of the topic is put the way the topic is framed. All I can do is listen first.
Okay, that's fair. Dr. Issa, you want to take the first stab at it?
Well, yeah, it's no problem with me. I think this started off with an email that I sent to Cleo regarding after our meeting in Atlanta. And I was trying to set up the historical and social context of why I thought we were meeting in Atlanta. Most of the people that were there that I was familiar with had a black nationalist or have a black nationalist background like myself. And when I say black nationalist, I mean that specifically. My expertise is in black nationalism. My doctoral degree is in the history of black nationalism in the United States. And the root of the word nationalism is nation. The black people want their own nation. And that has always been the heartbeat of black America, is black nationalism. That's the heartbeat. That is the unspoken heartbeat. Now, over the last 40 years, the black nationalists have basically had to take, have really been on the run because of the wars that were waged against black nationalists during the late 60s and 70s, in which many were killed, like Captain Senior. Many were put in jail. We have a lot of black nationalist political prisoners who are in prison right now. Many were ran into exile, like Queen Mother Assata Shakur. But their whole issue is that they wanted a black nation. Now, the issue of black nationalism has always been whether or not some believe that they wanted a state here in the United States, and some wanted to go back to Africa, set up a nation. So my family, particularly in my lineage on my mother's side, around the earlier part of the 20th century, many of them in Arkansas left this country and moved to Liberia, right? That's black nationalism. Many more would have left if they had the resources. And many tried to leave, but the white supremacists wouldn't allow us to leave because of the need to have free labor, right? So when we talk about black nationalism, we're talking about the root. And so when we talk about black liberation, we're talking about it is synonymous with black nationalism, the ability to control and govern yourself. It's very human. When we talk about the Zionists, they're talking about running a nation called Israel. That's real. That's nationalism. We talk about the IRA, the Irish. They're talking about nationalism. When we talk about the formation of the United States, when they broke away from Great Britain, they set up their own government. That's nationalism. So the root of African American political thought has always been, and still is, nationalistic in its orientation, meaning that they want, now you have black nationalists who feel that they want control of the resources in the United States that they have. That's one degree of nationalism. You still have elements who believe that they can have a nation in the United States. I'm not arguing for or against. And then you have a large element who are at this very day returning back to Africa. We have never stopped returning back to Africa. It's a silent movement back to Africa, to Nigeria, to Ghana, and to other African nation states. So the basis of any nation is family ties. And how do you get family ties? You get that through procreation, right? And so when I wrote Cleo this initial letter, and I wrote it, I wasn't hiding, and Cleo has to admit, unlike a lot of people who want to hide, no, I have nothing to hide. If I feel passionate about something, I'm going to bring it up. Like I told Cleo, I felt passionate about black colleges turning white. I wrote an article, How Black Colleges Are Turning White, the Ethnic Cleansing of HBCUs in the Age of Obama. I criticized the White House. I criticized the White House advisor on HBCUs in the public. So what more to deal with issues that are sensitive to black people? Now, my issue is that I believe, and I'll finish and let Brother Cleo dialogue, because like Cleo said the last time, this is an issue we can't run away from. This is an issue that we have to put in the front because it is an issue. It's a serious issue, right? My issue is, for the last 10 years particularly, as I've been doing my research recently, there's been a serious homosexual agenda as it pertains to African Americans. And a lot of African Americans have the belief now that they cannot do anything in this country without getting support from the homosexual community that is predominantly dominated by white American men, right? And so this has been my issue. What we have witnessed within the black nationalist or the black radical tradition, and I'm not an expert in the black radical tradition, but I do know about the black nationalist tradition that we have seen an upsurge of homosexual agendas being infused into the heartbeat of what makes black people in this country tick, and that's black nationalism. So that's why I brought this issue up to Brother Cleo, so that we can have a dialogue, right? And like I would say this now, this ain't personal, and this is not about individuals, but this is about how a group of people have survived. We have survived by fighting Europeans, and it was not a European agenda. And that I will say this as I end: whoever pays the piper, right, has the agenda. Who's ever paying someone to do certain things in black people, there is no black agenda coming out of the United States government. So whoever pays a person, that's whose agenda it is. Over the last 30 years, we've seen a serious upsurge of a European homosexual agenda throughout the country, right? But over the last 10 years, we've seen this now become infused with a black agenda. And it's my belief, personally, that, and like I said, I'm not an expert. There are other people who are experts on this. Hopefully they may call in. It's my opinion that this is being done to water down the black nationalist tradition, which has never really been a tradition about issues of gender. It's been an issue on how do black people survive. And that's how, yeah. Now let Cleo speak.
All right, thank you, Dr. Issa. Brother Cleo?
Well, Ronald, one thing that's going to have to happen in this show, I think, to make sure that it's going to be helpful for your audience, is that you're definitely going to have to guide this show where you would like it to go in terms of topics. Because, and this has been something that's happened a lot with me and Issa, is that 99% of the stuff he says don't have nothing to do with me. So I don't even want to waste my time saying that don't got nothing to do with me, that don't got nothing to do with me. And some of the stuff he be saying, I agree with. But so, I mean, I guess I'll try in terms of getting this going, in terms of what I agree with, that I can remember. I agree with him that well, let me back up, because there's people who've never heard of me before who listen to this and they need to know a little bit more about me. So let me start there. I think I figured it out here because I want to make sense. I have nothing to do with the white gay community. I'm not involved in the white gay community. The white gay community sees itself in opposition to me and have been attacking me and attempting to discredit and marginalize me ever since they've known of me. So I'm not in that agenda. Matter of fact, a lot of my work challenges that community whenever I'm bothered with thinking about that community, frankly, which is very, very rare, because that community is not my concentration. The reason that we're talking about this community at all right now is because the doctor brought it up. I don't bring up this community because it's not central to my work, the white gay community, or what's called the LGBT community. One of the things that was implied in Issa's comments was something about paying people or who pays people. Now, what he needs to do with that comment, because I think I know what he means, is he needs to break that down. Not yet, Issa, give me a second, let me finish first, but I want you to break that down before I respond to it, because there's an implication there that I'd rather not assume what you mean. I'd rather you say what you think is going on, if indeed that might be relevant to Cleo Manago or not. But I want to put that out there. But in terms of the white gay community being powerful and white and male and trying to influence black institutions and to some extent take them over with the gay agenda, I completely agree with him on that tip, and I don't agree with that. I don't support that activity that he's talking about, and I'm not involved in it. And it's so easy to find out my perspectives on these things. If people Google search Cleo Manago on the internet, one of the articles where I talk about that specifically, and there's many, is when the CNN fired or put Roland Martin on. Remember that incident where Roland Martin was put on suspension?
Mm-hmm.
And the white gay community tried to get him fired. And they attacked Tracy Morgan. They attacked all kinds of brothers. And I came out calling them blackophobic, using the term homophobic, the way they use that term a lot, and called them blackophobic and racist because that community is very racist. It's one of the last bastions of racism in this country that almost never gets challenged because a lot of black people are afraid to be associated with that community, so they don't say anything about the racism in that community because then they'll be an association. So that community always gets off the hook. But what I want to get to, and I can't be the one that talks about this that much because it's not my perspective, is this whole thing about whether homosexuality is compatible with black nationalism or something like that. Mm-hmm. I would need some contextual help to make sense of that question because to me it's a strange question. Because same-gender loving people are people in families, are people in communities, are soldiers, are painters, are people who live and breathe in and out every day, who are a part of the black collective and always have been among the freedom fighters and black nationalists as far back as I can remember and before. So it's not a separate community. So when you have a question like, is it compatible or do they mix or whatever, that's a strange question to me because as a black person who's about the black nation and who spends 100% of his time affirming, supporting, creating space for, trying to heal people to get prepared to get them into the black nation, I'm already in the black nation. So it's over almost half a century. So, I mean, even though you brothers are just hearing of me, the reason that we met at that meeting is because we all had histories. And my history is decades long, and I've been doing what I do for decades. It's not new activity. So I need a little more context to be able to bite onto something around this topic that was created. But a lot of what I just said, don't got nothing to do with me. Like schools and what he said about. I'll paraphrase, but what he said about the schools being taken over since Obama or whatever with these other agendas and basically watering down the black essentialness of so-called HBCUs, that's true. That's true. Everything that black people have ever gotten or get to have in a society that affirms them and empowers them as black people is all being snatched away under the BS rubric of post-racial America. And I'm not with it. I think it's very destructive to black people because we haven't finished being healed. We haven't finished going through our process of self-discovery and purging from internalized white supremacy and being healthy enough people for us to lose so much. We have work to do. So a lot of things he be saying, I don't have no argument. Now another thing I just remembered though was this issue of things are coming back to me because he said so much was this issue about family and procreation. Well, the implication in that comment is that same-gender loving people don't procreate. Almost half of the same-gender loving people that there are procreate. There's also a large number of heterosexual people who do not procreate. So the procreation capacity here is not, particularly among black folks who are not having a problem reproducing, that's not an issue. And I'm definitely not here to interrupt the reproduction of black people at all. One of the things I'm trying to do to add to the importance of focusing on the reproduction of black people is making sure that black families and black parents are healthy enough to have black children and they don't wind up filling up the foster homes like they're doing left and right now, ironically, to be adopted by white people. Because our community is so dysfunctional, and sometimes we're so off kilter with what we should focus on and divided over petty stuff that we can't come together and take care of our people and save us from destruction. So this reproduction thing, I mean, hey, I don't see the relevance of it as it relates to this issue because reproduction is not being tampered with on any kind of memorable scale for black people, but black people are being killed left and right. And the people that's killing us don't care what our sexuality is. There was a brother, I forgot his name now, named James something. You might have heard about this brother who got ran over about 2 years ago by an F-15 truck, who was walking down the street, and these white kids in the car wanted to kill a black man, and they ran over him, his whole body with their truck. I could find his name before the radio show's over, but you must have heard about it. But anyway,
he was Jackson, Mississippi. Yes.
Yeah, he was the same gender-loving brother.
They didn't know that. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
They didn't know that. And when the cops come after me, and when the cop comes after Issa, they don't know what our sexuality is, and they don't care what our sexuality is. Same gender-loving black men, particularly that look like me, that are strong, are harassed no less than other brothers. So this separation stuff is it's like we need to come together and protect our community because we all black, but black people are diverse and always have been. But like I said, the attack on black people don't care about sexuality. Now, frankly, this is something that might be controversial to some of the listeners, including among the same gender-loving community. White supremacy prefers to deal with feminized black men and prefers to deal with gay-identified black men and black women over heterosexual black men or strong black men because they feel like they can maneuver, say, gay-identified black men and women more than they can do black men. And black women and same-gender black men are favored in the hierarchy of who white supremacy prefers. And just people in our community, both female and same-gender loving or gay-identified is what I call those black folks, who play into that. There's a lot of unconsciousness in the black community because of all the interruptions of us loving ourselves and having pro-black common sense. But all I can say to you and both of y'all is that, look, let's discuss this and find out what the issues are and see what we can do. But there's nobody on this phone no more committed to black people than me.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, if I may, Brother Ron.
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Well, Cleo, then who pays your organization?
My organization is a volunteer organization overall, number one. Number two, I have some personal businesses that I've created that help to fund my work. Number three, we have a small grant from the Center for Disease Control along with the NACP, Reverend Al Sharpton's organization, 100 Black Men, and several historically black organizations to do some preventive health work in the black community.
So, like I said, you can't do this type of work without having the proper funding. When I was looking at your organization, which I'm impressed by, Black Men, you have chapters all over the country, right? You have several chapters. And I think I was looking at it, in 2010, you got a $2 million grant from the Center of Disease and Control, right? And I was looking at the particulars of that grant, and what I saw was to deal with issues, which they say under HIV,
mm-hmm.
which they call long-standing. I'm not looking at it, so I'm trying to remember long-standing black traditional institutions. Right now, and I brought this up last time we talked, is whether or not these type of grants work to help. Is there an agenda behind these type of grants?
I have an agenda. I have an agenda behind it. I'm the one who created the concept to get the money, so I can tell you without even stuttering what the agenda is, the whole thing, because I created it.
All right, I'm listening.
Well, as like everything else I do, it's a project funded to provide opportunities for black people to learn about self-love and unlearn impulses that are anti-black and purge from internalized white supremacy and learn to have impulse control and learn to value themselves enough to reduce disease and reduce harm to other black people and themselves. From my perspective, the reason why we have so many health disparities in our community, because a lot of us don't value and love black people. And my work and my methodology that was funded to be tested works on reversing anti-black behavior in black people toward preventive health and behavior, positive behavior change. That's the agenda. And I wrote the model and I created the whole thing.
All right. And so, like I said, $2 million is not a small amount of money, and I'm not against it.
Brother, I've raised over $12 million in my career. More than that. So I can, no problem. I can tell you how I did it, why I did it, and everything else, anything else you want to know. But it's all been done on my terms.
What I'm saying, what I'm saying, Mr. Manago, is that Manago. I'm sorry, Manago. And please correct me whenever I get it wrong. It's not intentional. What I'm saying, whoever, I know that black people don't have that type of money, right? We don't, right? And for any type of black organization, the type of work that I do with black nationalism, nobody was going to fund me to write an article criticizing the white-dominated government that wants to see most of our people in jail and not in college. Nobody's going to give me a grant to do that type of research. I wouldn't even ask. I would never ask for that type.
That's why you don't have it, because you didn't ask. I asked, and I got it.
Well, okay, let me say this. Go ahead. Is Brother Cleo? Or
I heard him. Well, let me restate that. I did ask once for a grant to do some work, and it was denied on the basis of the fact that it was too black, right? And so once that happened, I realized that unless I can go to the community that I'm a part of to get the funding to do the work that I want done, because I am a traditional black nationalist, Pan-Africanist, right? It won't get done, right? And so, like I said, whoever pays the piper sets the agenda. Now, I say that since you said that you want some more contextual understanding of what I meant. I'm assuming referring to me. What I meant is that the gay agenda, not the point of being gay, but the gay agenda is primarily a European, white American agenda. It has always been hostile to African people in this country.
You're right.
How do you effeminize black masculinity?
How do I do what?
What's the best way to effeminize? We have black women.
Wait. See, you got to slow down, brother, because you're raising too many issues, and now you're getting ready to go on another editorial. You just asked me a question about a feminine. What was the question? What's the question again? There was a question you asked. How do I feminize what? What was that?
No, it wasn't. Whenever I make a statement, Cleo, it's not about you personally.
Oh, I'm not taking a thing personal. Hey, I'm not taking. I can promise you, I'm not taking nothing personal at all. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. I don't feel personally assaulted at all, not yet. So I'm just trying to be clear. You said I thought you had asked me a question about how do you feminize or something like that.
Well, Ron, if you could, it's your show. If you could.
Well, no, I know people, they anxious. Like, I got people in the chat room, they're anxious to get in. It's like Dr. Cleo, Brother Cleo, I guess you're a doctor because you're an expert at what you do as well. No disrespect to Dr. Issa. But they say, is this brother on trial here? I said, nobody on trial here. I mean, y'all like verbal sparring partners. Y'all like Ali and Frazier.
Let the community know that I'm fine. I am fine. I'm not even tripping at all. I'm eating a popsicle.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. But, people say, what does it got to do with black nationalism and homosexuality? But the reason why this conversation is taking place, of course, is because what happened several weeks ago. We had this 2-day planning session down in Atlanta, Georgia. It was a lot of great energy, a lot of phenomenal people, very exceptional people, president company included. But the last day of the planning session, Brother Manago, he had to leave, of course, early family situation.
2 hours. 2 hours early.
2 hours early, right.
Had been there for 2 days, starting at 9 in the morning. But
yeah, you was there. But here's the thing, I didn't really, I heard you. I was familiar with your name somewhat, but when I heard you speak on Friday, I was really inspired by what you had to say. You were talking about modifying bad black behavior, turning black self-hate to black self-love. I thought you were very articulate. I thought, you were very charismatic and things of that nature. And then folks start hitting that agenda, like a certain organization, spokesperson for a certain organization, start hitting that one thing that could unite black folks is being against this homosexuality agenda. Whatever, because he was talking about how the U.S. government and other European nations were pushing the homosexual agenda on certain African nations and punishing certain African nations for not accepting the quote-unquote homosexual agenda. Now, to be fair to you, you wasn't present when we started this issue about, is there a place for the homosexuality agenda within the black liberation movement, the black nationalist movement? My concern was you misrepresenting what you was about. Because, the way I heard it from, the person who brought this up is that you had a hidden agenda, quote-unquote. But to be fair to you, you have, to your credit, come on several shows since that time. You've written a long email detailing your purpose and your statement and all that stuff. So I give you much respect. And I had extended an invitation to several different folks who were at the meeting, but they did not show up. So I give Dr. Issa major props for showing up and taking part in this very important discussion. So that's what's going on.
Well, thank you, brother. Let me bring some context to what you just said. I think it's important that your audience understands that I was in the presence of the person, because it wasn't people, it was a person who did get busy spreading their perspectives to other people behind my back consistently, a person. But I was there for several hours in the presence of everybody for 2 days. I was with the group and addressing issues. We had break time. We had meals together. There was ample time to address this issue, particularly when we were all together. Matter of fact, the person whose name is A.L., I'm not going to do like he did and be afraid to say his name. This person named A.L. Was talking about homosexuality more than anybody, and the only person to talk about it at all during the whole session. I had what he was saying was not relevant to me, so I had no comment, and so I went on about my business. But the bottom line is that he was the only one raising the issue. It was the purpose of our meeting was not homosexuality. Like I said to you the other day, Ron, when you walk in the door, I don't think you walk in the door consider yourself a heterosexual advocate. And that heterosexuality was a center to your agenda. Homosexuality was not centered to my agenda. I didn't go there to talk about homosexuality. I was there to talk about black issues and the focus and the agenda of the evening and of the weekend. This whole homosexual/gay stuff was not nobody's agenda. It certainly wasn't mine. So one of the implications was that because I didn't go in there with a gay T-shirt on and jumped up and down hollering gay, that I supposed to have an agenda that I hid, which is ridiculous because no one who came into the room with a shirt on talking about their sexuality because it was irrelevant. Just because you don't talk about it don't mean you're hidden. Nobody knew what color your underwear was either, because that don't mean you hid it. It's not relevant. So I resented the implication that I'll hide anything, because like I've said, like I'm sure has been indicated since then, I'll talk about anything, anytime. As a matter of fact, when A.L. raised that issue of homosexuality for the third time, I did address him. He was talking about how people were delivering DVDs in the African communities promoting homosexuality. And I said to him, because I'm very sincere, anytime I open my mouth, I said, man, if people are giving black children DVDs, we need to put a stop to that. We need to work on becoming a more cohesive community so we can end that. That's ridiculous. Nobody should be handing our children nothing that we don't approve. And that's what I said in the meeting. And that was my honest response. I had no need to go any further on the issue. And when I did introduce myself, getting back to this whole alleged hidden agenda crap, I talked about what was important to me. I said I was at the meeting because I felt apparently I was valued because I was invited, and I talked about reversing black self-hate into self-love and looking at our mental states, because it's our mental states that keeps us from having relatively little success since so-called black nationalism has started. Black folks are in trouble in this country, and white supremacists agendas and strategies have stepped up, and we fighting over BS that has been inspired by white folks. Because every time somebody talks about homosexuality, including ICE the other day on when we talked in another interview, the frame of reference is white folks and what they think, Greece and Italy and all this other kind of stuff. It's not even an African contextualized conversation. Mm-hmm. So it's like when we gonna move to actually addressing this issue. I mean, the dude that raised all this mess don't even have the courage to have the conversation. with me involved.
We ain't got to worry about him.
I'm not worried about anything. I'm talking about a fact that the person, I was at that meeting for 2 days, and that person, I walked past that person when I left. They saw me leave because they were out in the lobby where you have to be at to get out the hotel. And when they saw me leave, then they turn around and start talking about this issue from an innuendo-ish perspective until D-Don broke it down in terms of who was the source he was talking about. That should be looked at. That should be looked at as sideways, as far as I'm concerned.
And Brother Io, he's the representative, the figurehead for Wardy Horizon. It's a D.C. organization, or it's a station out in D.C. We had extended an invitation to him to come on to talk on this very important discussion. I have not heard back from his representatives. I did everything, in terms of contacting them and protocol-wise. I have not heard back from them at all. And I just want to applaud y'all once again, Brother Cleo Manago and Brother Dr. Jahi Issa, for coming out here and having the courage to, talk about these very important issues as it relates to the black community. And if you want to get on this call, I'm about to go to the lines, and people have been waiting patiently. They have a lot of great things they're saying in the chat room. So I'm going to get to these calls, but you need to dial in to the number, which is 724-444-7444, and enter the access code, because I can't, if you're not dialed in, I won't be able to get you into this very important conversation to ask a question or to make a comment. So we're going to go to a brother. You talked about Africa. A brother definitely with an African perspective. We're about to get this brother on. Brother, this brother wrote a book. Brother, can you hear me?
Quadro, yes. I can hear you.
Can you hear me? How you say your name, sir?
Quadro. Kwado. Or call me Brother Obeng. It's easier. Brother Obeng.
Okay, yes. Brother Obeng. It's an honor to have you on. I know Brother Cleo told me about you just like a little bit an hour before the show. And I checked out your website. I'm very interested in your point of view, because you are from the motherland. You are from the continent. You were born in the continent. And you have a powerful book that just came out. Can you please talk about
what's the name of the book? What's the name of that book?
Yes.
We are all Africans, exposing the negative influence of the Judeo-Christian Islamic religions on Africans.
So what do you think about this conversation so far, Brother Obeng? What you've been hearing?
It's discouraging, realistically, to me. Where do I begin? Because I've heard so many comments, discussions against brothers who happen to be gay.
Or saving and loving.
Brothers and sisters who are gays and lesbians. There have been an attempt to attack them using African background. There are people who go around saying, gayness is not an African thing. And so somehow it's an European thing imposed on Africans. I think that is the utmost ignorance that people can betray. For one thing, we have to look at the very basis of genetics. What makes somebody gay or heterosexual? That issue is not addressed. But my view is the people who are promoting this homophobia are people who have come out of the church, who have read the Bible, the Quran, and the Torah. These are the books that promote homophobia. Homosexuality was never an issue until these books came around. African people have been on the continent for, at least as Homo sapiens, more than 200,000 years. Homosexuality was never an issue. Let's get to the bottom of what causes homophobia. It is genetics, the building blocks of life.
Who are you? Wait, first of all, who are you? Where are you from?
Who am I? I did not interrupt you when you spoke. Let me finish. If you want to learn something, let me finish. And then listen and then ask questions. That's how we learn. Is that understood? The building blocks of life, adenine, cytosine, thymine, and guanine, they form the genetic markers in every cell, in the Y chromosome. It is the DNA that forms the Y chromosome and also the X chromosome. These building blocks give us our identity, our traits, physical and otherwise. Dr. Spencer Wells, who did the video on migration from Africa, tracing all human DNA to Africa, he discusses this issue very clearly. Homosexuality is not a white or black issue. It is genetics. And this is what people need to understand. We have to go back. Genetics gives us our different identities. You can have two twins. They come out different. It is because in the DNA market, there are differences. That's what makes us all different from one another. Now, to paint homosexuals as if they are some disgusting group of people and we should be vilifying them, ostracizing them, shun them, and not bring them into society, it's pure ignorance. We've always had homosexuals in Africa. The village I grew in, well, in Ghana, particularly in Africa, before these European and Arab religions came, we did not have an issue with sexuality. Nobody cared who you are. When I was growing up in a city, I went to school in a city called Kumasi in Ghana. There was a lady that her name, they called her Kwadwo Besia. Kwadwo is the middle name for a boy born on Monday. Besia is a woman. So we translate that name is Kwadwo woman. She dressed like a woman, went to the market, in the market store, and sold stuff. People went there to buy stuff, and we all knew her as Kwadwo Besia. Nobody raised a fuss. As a matter of fact, she entertained people. People come look at her, and it was an amusement. And she enjoyed it. It wasn't people making fun of her. Homosexuality has been part of the African people. It was never an issue. Just as heterosexual is not an issue with anybody. It is not discussed. It's nobody's business what you do.
Let me ask you this question. First, let me ask you a question. I asked you earlier, it's important if you're going to come on as an alleged expert on African culture, right?
I am, because I was born there and I know my culture.
Hold on, because you're not a guest. And if you're going to be the guest, then I'm going to hang up. All right? I don't know who you are.
Let's calm down.
All I heard, no, let me finish. What I heard is that Cleo invited you on. Right? This is your friend of Cleo. So, of course, Cleo is going to bring somebody to push his agenda. So I asked you first, who are you? What is your expertise on the subject?
I'm sorry. I thought you are the host.
No, not.
No, I'm just listening. I'm trying to listen. It's not that's taking in. I mean, this is a 2-hour show, but there's so much y'all throwing out here, and people are I'm looking at the chat room. Somebody said an interest point. If it is genetic, then does that mean it is a genetic defect? And they
before we get to that, though, I think that Issa's question should be answered. I think Issa should know who Obing is and what he's done and how he knows what he knows.
Okay, that's fair. No, Brother Obing, go ahead. Name your credentials. Show it.
All right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, when it comes to whether homosexuals can be part of the African the fight, absolutely. We invite all African people to join in this.
Let me get on off this, man. Carmen, when you were going to have a talk show, the dialogue was between me and Cleo. And now we got this imposter who I don't know who he is and who's
imposter
running with. Because this is what I'm saying, Cleo. You're very clever with your agenda and trying to push it. So if you were going to do that, then let me bring somebody on from the country of Uganda, right, and to debate this so-called imposter. That's a whole other show.
Well, Dr.
I'm sorry.
I don't want you to leave. Wait a minute, y'all. I don't.
And Cleo. This goes beyond you and Cleo. It affects African people all over the world. It goes beyond you and Cleo because there's an effort to divide African people among so many lines, among our color, light-skinned, dark-skinned, heterosexuals.
Being. Hold on a second, man, because I really don't want Issa to have an excuse to run away from this conversation. Yeah. And he's reacting to you coming on the show. So hold on a second.
I haven't brought anybody on to call. I've asked nobody to call in, not one person.
Well, you got people.
Now, if I thought you were going to do this to push your agenda.
Issa, can I talk? You keep talking this. Issa, you keep talking this shit about me pushing an agenda. Would you let me talk? The agenda pusher. Let me say something.
Let me tell you something. I've been nice to you, and I've been cordial to you, right? But you don't push me around. Let me tell you something. No, wait a minute.
No. You've accused me of something, and I want to address that first. I'm not going to let the accusation go by.
If you bring a cat on without letting anybody know, I don't know, this cat still hasn't said, who the hell is he? She could have brought on my wife's brother who's from Ghana to debate this cat. What the hell?
I'm the guest. Let me hold on. Let me get control of the show. Let me get back control of the show.
Control is needed.
This was an open dialogue. I had you guys on because you guys, y'all have been going backwards and forth in different venues and platforms about this, and I'm trying to bring the community in. So we don't know who nobody is. It's like when I went to that meeting in Atlanta, Georgia, Lithonia, whatever. I didn't know all you people. I didn't know what the agenda was with everybody in the room. I don't know everybody's personal history or the color of their underwear. But the thing about it is we got to have this dialogue because, Dr. Issa, there are people in the chat room and on the line that agree with a lot of what you're saying and some people that agree with Brother Cleo and Brother Obeng.
That's not what I'm saying, Brother Ron. What I'm saying is, this cat, who is he? That's all I'm asking.
That's a good question, right?
Acting as if he's an authority, right? And so if he's acting as if he's authority, let me see who he is and what he represents. That's a general question. That's not I'm not asking a horrible question like that.
No. But Dr. Issa, I put in the chat room, weareallafricans.com. That's his website, weareallafricans.com. And people, they got the online, there's access, they can look them up on his website. Because people, like I said, it's people that want to get a part of this conversation. Y'all got a lot of people fired up. They want to get in this conversation. And they've been waiting patiently. So let's stay on topic. The topic is, is this going to be a problem for us to come together? Can we find one thing as a black diaspora to rally around so we get past all this madness?
But Ron, one thing that has to happen though, when Issa accuses me of something, I need to be able to respond to that, and I can do it briefly. I don't have to go on a long tangent, and I don't have to be emotional. I asked Brother Obeng to call in because of his book called We Are All African, because he has a perspective on this issue, because he's from as opposed to being a black nationalist with an Afrocentric bent, he's from Africa, born and raised on the continent. He's a heterosexual man with children and has been married and all these things. So in case anybody's wondering, he's a heterosexual man. He's a heterosexual man from the continent. I figured he could, like anybody else who can call in, he could call in and give his perspective as a man from Africa who don't have to theorize, but who's from there and has lived there. Now, like you said before, his background is. Let me back up, and I'm not pushing an agenda. Obeng don't work for me. He's not on my staff. He's a consultant that lives hundreds and hundreds of miles from me. We know of each other through pro-black work. That's it. He's not my puppet. So I'm not pushing no agenda other than black people coming together and being unified, and there's no hidden secret crap going on here. I figured an African brother from Africa could raise, who've done research. I mean, he got a book that's bigger than the Bible called We Are Africans that you can go online and look at and find out who the brother is. So there's no hidden stuff. It's really interesting that he keeps on implying that, but there's no hidden agenda at all. And I think his question around who Obeng is a legitimate question, but all you got to do is go online.
And weareallafricans.com. This is Brother Obeng's site with his book and everything about his philosophy and ideology and his work. So, that's fair enough. So let's keep it moving, though. I think it's very important because I'm going to get to the people that have been waiting patiently. They want to chime in. And, this is a very important because we ain't going to solve all the problems and address every issue that ails the black community within 2 hours, but this is just a start, and hopefully we could just dialogue. Because, like, one thing, Brother Cleo and Dr. Issel, I appreciate about you brothers, y'all not hiding. There's no hidden agenda in terms of y'all concerned about the state of black folks in this diaspora. So let's just make that point clear. And I'm going to get to the lines and let somebody else have their point of view. They've been saying a lot of great things in the chat room. But one question, Brother O'Bane, talking about homosexuality, somebody raised an interesting point about homosexuality. If it's a genetic defect, that would mean it is abnormal, can be fixed. If it's
no, homosexuality is not abnormal. Just like left-handedness and left-handedness is not abnormal. Because all that differences come from the genetic matters, the building blocks of life. The 4 building blocks of life give us all the differences we have today. Tall, short, light skin, dark skin, big, small, the way we act. All of those markers, when you look at the DNA structure, when you see the DNA chart, you see all the different lines. They are the pair of the 4 building blocks. Adenine pairing with thymine and guanine pairing with cytosine. And the way they arrange, that's what gives us the differences. So there's nothing defective about someone coming out homosexual. There are situations where a man may feel, it looks like a man, but feels like a woman. It's something within the genetic makeup. That's what gives us the differences. We cannot say this is a defect and that is not. If that was so, then we should be all men. Because the genetic markers give us the 2 sexes. Everything is about us. We need to get to the bottom of this. There was no issue with homosexuality until Moses came out, only 1200 BC. He wrote the Bible and put his name. And then from then on, Christians picked up on it, and Arabs picked up on it in their Quran. Homosexuality has not become something abnormal, and they advocate that homosexuals should be killed. There has always been homosexuality within humanity. It is this.
Okay, we'll go.
Yes.
No, O'Bane. Okay.
Yes.
Are you breaking up? Hello? Are you there?
Yeah. Okay. Let me pick up the phone. Homosexuality has never been an issue. Somebody asked the question, what tribe? Again. Mm-hmm. There is no tribe that has a problem with sexuality because African people did not discuss sexuality. We don't.
So what is sex then, O'Bane?
What is what?
What is sex? What is the definition of sex?
What is the definition of sex?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question.
It's not a very good question. You are not clear. You define what you mean by sex. What is sex? And then we can go on. What is sex to you?
Man, please. I'm not going to do this.
Sex to him being a sex between a man and a woman.
No. If I don't answer, Cleo, then I don't need you to answer for me. All right?
I've heard you say that, though. I've heard you say that.
First of all, for your information, Cleo, I.O. is on line 1734. He's on. He heard that you called him out, and so he's on.
Okay, so he's on 1734. So I'm going to say you guess number 17?
1734 line. I'm on line 1734. He just texted me.
Okay, see.
Now, Ron, but let's make sure we have a conversation here, not a screaming match, and that we hear each other.
I can't take the screaming match. I want to come in.
And that we're listening to each other. Please make sure that we're listening to each other and that we're responding to each other.
Well, I totally disagree with this cat, O'Bane. And if I had known, I would have had several people from several African countries to call in and talk about the pedophilia, the white pedophilia that's going on.
I'm not talking about white people. I'm talking about Africans.
That's another issue. There's white pedophilia happening. That's a whole other topic. White pedophilia is happening, but just because white pedophilia is happening does not mean that just because white pedophilia is going on does not mean that same-gender loving people don't naturally exist among humanity. Just because men rape women left and right does not mean that there's no heterosexual people. That one is not connected to the other. Yes, there's pedophilia going on. Yes, children are being raped. And most of it is heterosexual. That doesn't mean that heterosexuality is irrelevant and doesn't exist. Same thing with same-gender loving people. There are men who are being inappropriate with young boys. That's wrong. That does not mean that same-gender loving people don't exist. That's two different things. One is a rape, one is a problem, one is an assault, one is a mental illness, and one just exists. And Obing's perspective was that we just exist. When you bring in pedophilia and all these crazy behaviors, there is no connection. You're making one because you feel like doing it, but in reality, it's an artificial connection, and it's hypocritical because most rape of children is heterosexual rape.
Cleo, my issue,
including in Africa.
You called the cat in, right? And I wish that I had known that because
you said that 3 times. You said that 3 times. We get it.
Okay, we're going to
move that 3 times.
We're going to move this along because, this ain't about us versus, this is not what this is supposed to be about today. This is about, we're asking the question. The question was phrased, is black liberation and homosexuality, are they compatible? And it's an issue. People say, well, this should be a non-issue. Like somebody brought up, James Baldwin was gay here in the United States.
James Baldwin did not identify as gay.
Right, homosexual, right.
Thank you.
But he kept his bedroom preference in his room and away from the babies. So basically, this was about black liberation. For James Baldwin, for any person who loves black folks, we got to put that on the burner. For example, if we look at Langston Hughes and some of the brothers from the Harlem Renaissance, a lot of them brothers were homosexual. But at the same time, you could tell, you think Langston Hughes didn't love black people? He was published in Marcus Garvey's newspaper.
But that wasn't a part of his agenda. He was not pushing that agenda.
All right, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. Okay.
And you know what's funny? Ron? The reason we're talking about homosexuality is because an allegedly heterosexual person pushed it. I didn't push it. I didn't raise it. It wasn't relevant. The reason we're having this phone conversation is because a so-called heterosexual person pushed the issue.
That wasn't a part of his agenda. He was not pushing that agenda. All right, that's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Bro, Dr. Hiss, you're breaking up. Dr. Hiss,
because an allegedly heterosexual person, I didn't raise it. It wasn't relevant. The reason we're having this whole conversation is because a so-called heterosexual person pushing it. He was not pushing that agenda.
Okay, I'm hearing feedback. I don't know what's happening.
I don't know what's happening either. I hear myself talking.
Yeah, I hear it. I think somebody got their turn down their computer, please.
I'm sorry.
Somehow,
Dr. Issa, the enemy is very busy. This is a very important discussion, y'all. Okay, Dr. Issa, you back on. I hope somebody turned their TV down. We're going to go to the lines because this is getting very inflammatory right here. It's not about individual attacks. It's not about personal attacks. Let's stop saying this is about a hidden agenda. Let's talk about the black agenda because there's a lack of a black agenda. I see President Obama, he might well be called, regardless of his sexual preference, they could call him the first gay president because he's doing a lot for gay people. No disrespect to brother Cleo. But we talking about
it don't have nothing to do with me, man. That don't have nothing to do with me.
No, I'm saying when I say the word gay, I'm not referring to you, brother. I'm talking about.
And I don't take. You shouldn't, because I don't call myself gay.
Exactly.
I'm not involved in that.
Exactly, but I'm saying he's doing a lot for every other group. Whether it be the Hispanics, whether it be white women. The first act he signed into law was the white woman from Alabama about the fair treatment, But what I'm saying is he's doing everything for everybody except for people of color. And we have yet to organize. You look at what's going on in his hometown of Chicago, his adopted hometown of Chicago. Black folks getting killed about a dozen every weekend. And that's atrocious. They have the quote-unquote leader of the free world can't take care of the brothers and sisters on the south side and west side of Chicago. And we talking about nation building in the Middle East and drone policies and whatnot. You got all this stuff going on at home. So our focus should be back at home, like somebody said in this chat room. We should be focusing on home. Not about what people do in their bedroom, but about our communities at home.
But you know what, Rod? But you know what? Let me just say this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good recommendation. But I want to say this without having to rush my voice. I want to be very relaxed. The black men have had our manhood challenged and abused and violated since we've been in this country. Black men, culturally, self-conceptually, psychologically, and almost everywhere you can think of, have been damaged or highly abused in this country. Some of this homosexuality reactionary behavior is a response to that. And we cannot not address the emotional states and the fear of homosexuality and manlessness and all this other stuff that comes to mind in terms of the fear that's going on, that some black men are dealing with us, getting in the way of them just actually showing up fully present because of all these insecurities and concerns. And there are people in our community, some of them who have taken leadership, who have been abused and who have been sexually abused, and we don't talk about that either. And some of this reactionary behavior is, in many cases, is really some of that stuff unresolved. And sometimes, I'm not saying about anybody in particular, but sometimes when people keep on talking about pedophilia, is because the people that start those conversations probably were the victims of a pedophile. Well, and they're making. Let me finish. I wasn't talking about you. I don't know what you were a victim of. I'm not talking about you. Let me finish. So there's people in our community who are dealing with things that constantly stay in the abstract and that we don't directly deal with. And like any neuroses, it comes and short circuits our capacity to stay focused and get the job done because there's all this stuff under that's not being properly dressed. And that's one of the things that's happening with our community. So when you talk about the fact of the matter is that we should start at home. The fact of the matter, the president apparently has demonstrably taken care of everybody else but us, and that we should come together and collectively advocate to make sure black people are taken care of. That's a great idea. That's an excellent idea, and we should do that. But there's some underlying issues that we have to address so they can stop being like a time bomb and exploding our capacity to stay focused and resolve our issues. Because that's what keeps happening, and that's what I was talking about at the meeting with Cynthia McKinney, that, look, we're not going to be able to resolve a lot of stuff until we deal with this stuff. And a group like that must deal with this stuff.
I'm not even bringing her name up. I think she can speak for herself. But Io is on the line, 1734. He wants to come in. All right,
we're going to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let everybody who's been waiting on the line, because I'm trying to make sure. Let me go to Brother Io. Are you there? Is Brother Kelly, you there? Brother Kelly? Let me see. Brother Io, are you there?
It's the Irritated Genie. Yes, I am here.
Oh, man, right. Okay, I got you. Because you don't stay 15 on my team, man. Welcome aboard, brother. I was worried that I haven't heard back from you. I hope you got all my emails. I've been, this Io, the Irritated Genie.
Yes, sir, brother.
The founder of Warner Rising. And, okay, brother, you helped actually started this conversation several weeks ago on the last day of the meeting. I just want to get your say. I know you've been listening. So what do you have to say about everything that you heard so far?
The first thing I want to say, to make things very clear to people, this is not speculation or conjecture. I want to be very clear to people, for anybody that wants the facts. The homosexual agenda from 1972 is a written agenda. It is not my opinion. It is a written agenda. I want you to go to the Internet. Many of you have access to the Internet. Go online. Put in the gay rights agenda of 1972. On the gay rights agenda, one of the things you will see is that they want the repeal of all laws governing the age of sexual consent, meaning they want to make it legal to have sex with children. They also... Hello?
Go ahead, Go ahead.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
It also says specifically that they wanted to let homosexuals adopt children. It said that they wanted to push homosexuality in the schools. This was 1972. Then you can go online. There's a video on YouTube called The Effeminization of the Black Male, Part 3, The Militant White Sex Assault. It shows you from the homosexual white individuals who are politically acclimated, where they say, our agenda is to push homosexuality in the school to children. And in 1993, they had a march on Washington where the homosexuals and the black male, they had a march on Washington in 1993 where the homosexual agenda was stated. We want to push homosexuality where adults can have sex with children. So anyone who says that homosexuals don't have an agenda, you're mistaken. I'm asking you to go do the research for yourself so you can see the agenda. The second thing I want to address is whether or not homosexuality is part of African culture. The answer is simple. All you have to do is look at African history. You can see that the Romans and the Greeks were almost entirely homosexual in their acclamation. When you look at African history prior to Arab and European invasion, there is 0% history of any homosexuality in Africa prior to Arab and European invasion. And the last thing I want to say, if you want to see right now, if you really want to challenge whether or not homosexuality is part of African culture, then ask yourself this question. What is the Obama administration pushing in Africa? Two things. Wars where they are killing our people. They're killing black people in Africa. And two, they are pushing the homosexual agenda in Africa. If you look at Malawi, they had $350 million of aid that was withheld unless they accept homosexuality. I have been to the African continent, country to country, and each of them is saying they are sending homosexuals in here, they're starting schools, they're molesting children, they're teaching children to participate in this misbehavior, and they're trying to subdue and undermine our culture, and many times they're using black homosexuals to do it. So, of course, the people are saying we do not want this stuff targeted on our people, and they are designed to kill these homosexuals and these pedophiles to get them out of their country.
Now, Ron, as the resident homosexual on this call, can I respond to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Brother Cleo. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. He mentioned something about a 1972 document or something that was written. He probably knows way more about that than I do. He don't know everything about homosexuality that I do, but in terms of all of these different documents and agendas, he knows more about that than I do. But there's a lot that I do know about. And one of the things that's ironic about this conversation, there's two things. One is at the infamous meeting that we're talking about, someone finally, apparently it was D-Don, dropped my name after A.L. brought up some concerns that are apparently very similar to what he...
My name is the Irritated Genie. Wait, hold up. My name is the Irritated Genie.
I'm sorry, pardon me, Irritated Genie, fine. Irritated Genie brought up some issues, and D-Don put my name on them, and Irritated Genie said he didn't want to work with homosexuals. Now, this is the part that's important to understand. And just like Irritated Genie invited everybody to do research, I'm also inviting people to use their common sense and the internet or whatever else they can find and do their research. Because the problem here, particularly that happened at that meeting, was that some of those concerns that Irritated Genie had were raised and that my name was dropped. I don't have nothing to do with any of the stuff that he's talking about, period. I don't have nothing to do with those things. Much of what he says, which is similar to what Jahi said about agendas, which are pretty much white homosexual and white supremacy-based homosexual agendas, and an attack on the black community, and an attempt to compromise and control the black community and neutralize it, I completely agree with that. And I'm completely against that. There was some discussion that was had without me being around about the policies that people had concerns about that had come out the Obama administration regarding Uganda, and them wanting to put sanctions if they don't allow certain things to occur under the rubric of gay. I don't agree with those sanctions, but I do have some suggestions in terms of what we can do, which has nothing to do with killing black people and all this other kind of crap that I'm hearing, which is destructive and creating more chaos among black people. But everything I've ever heard Irritated Genie talk about, which is today, because I've heard more today than I've ever heard, it don't have nothing to do with me. And it don't have nothing to do with anybody who's sane and loving who's been involved in what's called black nationalism. There is no connection. White supremacy is both heterosexual and homosexual. And there's all kinds of heterosexually aligned agendas, poisonous work being done, neutralizing and compromise of black people being done by people who are embodied in so-called heterosexuality. So the attack is multidimensional. It ain't just homosexual. And they are white folks who are molesting black girls and making sure that, and sterilizing them and things like that all the time. So the attack goes beyond the hyper-homosexual focus that Irritated Genie tends to have. And I have to say it one more time, this 1972 stuff that he's talking about, everything that he's mentioned happens outside of the black community in a predominantly white context that has nothing to do with me. And, in closing, none of this stuff defies the fact that there's same-gender-loving people of African descent. Just like I said earlier, before Irritated Genie got on the phone, that heterosexual people rape children does not make heterosexuality bad. That same-gender-loving people might be mentally ill enough to rape a child does not make same-gender-loving people bad. It makes them people bad and needing some help. So there's some things that are being synthesized together which don't necessarily have no connection. And that's the problem here. One of the problems here. I don't even disagree with a lot of what the brother said.
Brother? Hello, the host?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can I get back in this conversation?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Y'all do a good job.
Yes, sir. Let me make it clear to people.
Mm-hmm.
One who participates in sexual white sex deviance, whether one intends to or not, is part of the agenda. Now let me say it like this. What we have to understand as African people is the process by which whites created what we call homosexuals. The process is through our enslavement. They continuously rape black male children. And through that rape, which is pedophilia, they create a disturbance in the natural sexual development of a black male child that leads to what we call homosexuality. So what have whites done? When we are talking about the war and the things that black people are affected by, what we are talking about is a word called eugenics. Eugenics is a white science of racial annihilation, how whites scientifically kill black people. So when he was talking about them preventing us having babies and things of that nature, those were eugenics things that were started largely by Margaret Sanger, who now is the Planned Parenthood, these groups in our communities. But this is what it is.
Well, it's hard to hear. There's some things going on that's making it hard to hear.
Yeah, well, man, somebody, I don't know who's got some kids in the background.
Can I continue now?
Yeah, brother, go ahead. Sorry about that.
All right. Yeah. And what has happened is this. To begin with the eugenics process, they started by telling black people not to have babies. And so they put these abortion clinics in our community. But in the 1970s, what they realized is that you can have a black woman have 4, 5, 6 abortions, but she can still have children. So to intensify the eugenics program, meaning the killing of black people worldwide, it was Henry Kissinger in the NSM 200 when he sat down with one of the presidents, I don't know, Eisenhower was one of the presidents, and he said, listen, what we need to do is promote homosexuality and lesbianism among black people. And here, and when we do that, we don't have to worry about them producing children because they won't even participate in the behavior that leads to healthy families and producing children. So then this is what they've done. If you take a look at it and walk right outside of your house, what you will see, this is how they have assaulted our community with this homosexuality. One, they decriminalize black males so that they can run them through the prison system, have them be sexually violated and raped, and come out homosexuals. Then, two, they pushed lesbianism through the movie originally, The Color Purple, where they really pushed that idea that when a black woman is abused and she feels bad about being dark-skinned and feels these negative things, that the answer and solution to that is to go and have sex with another female. So they put this in the minds of our women and created feminism where our women say they don't need men to help facilitate the push of lesbianism. Then they come with this hip-hop, hypersexual, anti-female, aggressively talking about killing black men. So now you got music telling us to kill each other and telling us to mistreat our women, which creates more resentment in our women. And so what we see is the whole thing coming down. So then what happens is now they have the homosexuals creating fashions for our sons, skinny tight jeans that they wear. Then they give our daughters masculine items to wear looking more like boys than girls. Then they create music that promotes the sexual abuse and rape and the sexualization of our children. And so they create this homosexuality for the purpose of killing our people. Then they go to the African continent, take the same music that they've made to get us to kill each other here and to disrespect our women and call them out of their name here, and to effeminize black males here. They take that to the African continent. But now the clever thing is they're using Africans to do it. So they go pull somebody like whoever this guy Obing is, that Cleo comes up, and gets him to promote the homosexual agenda to black people, because if we saw whites trying to turn our sons into homosexuals, we will fight. But when they send a pedophile into our home, our uncle, and rapes a little girl, and now she doesn't like men because of what happened to her, so then the society tells her, hey, you don't like men? Go to some women. So now when a male rapes a little boy, then that little boy is not secure in his manhood and his sexuality. Now that little boy figures, what am I going to do? There's a homosexual waiting for him. There's a homosexual culture waiting to drag our children in that direction. And all you have to do is go to any junior high school that's black in this country, and you will see a plethora of homosexuals in that school, and these are our young children. But what makes it even deeper is that to supplement any real, true black manhood, they've gone a whole entire different level. Now, through the hiring practices and who they give money for institutions, they only give money to homosexuals to get in control of power in our community. They only give jobs, principals, vice principals, deans of students, the people that hire people on jobs to homosexuals. So what happens is if you're a strong black man anywhere in this country, you have a very difficult time expressing any black masculine energy, because the homosexuals will systematically root you out of your positions. And when I talk to black men around this country, even Dr. Issa has been a victim of this. Homosexuals who have not been identified and don't identify themselves as homosexuals are organized, and what they do is they destroy strong black manhood. They try to recruit black males into this misbehavior.
Let me know when I can talk. You've been going on and on.
What?
All right, go ahead, brother. Irritated Genie. Go ahead and do your thing. And brother Cleo want to respond.
Yeah, he can respond just like I waited for him to respond. He talked 20 minutes before. He didn't say nothing. This is what I'm doing. Listen, this is the difference. I'm giving you information that you can actually go outside of your house and verify. I'm not giving you no space-age concepts. I'm telling you, you can look at the agenda. Again, the feminization of the black male, part 3. Go up on YouTube and just watch it for yourself. You don't have to agree with it. But what I'm saying is the homosexuals, here's the difference. He's telling you something you have to believe him in. I'm telling you, I'm showing you the homosexuals who say, our agenda is to make children homosexual. Our agenda is to push this. And I show you them pushing it in Africa. They're pushing it all around the world. And this is the new eugenics to destroy our community, because it is more effective. If you want to destroy a black family, there's nothing more you can do that's better than turn the male into a freak. If that black man does not seek a woman, but he would rather have a penis in his mouth or anus, you have destroyed that family. And if, by God, for God's sake, he actually pushes that behavior on his children, then you will have what you see with Will Smith and Jada Pinkett. Look at that family. Here you have 2 rich black people, both of them involved in homosexual behavior, raising a daughter to become a lesbian and raising a son to become a homosexual. We're kissing his son on the mouth on TV, 10, 20 seconds, kissing him in the mouth. Men don't do that. They are destroying our race.
Yeah.
Ron, can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead, speak.
Irritated Genie gives a lot of drama and puts a lot of stuff together that he's putting together based on his own paranoid fantasy that don't necessarily connect. And what he does is he takes pieces of reality, like the effeminization of the black man, like the destruction of the black family, like black men calling their manhood and their self-concept into question. Those things are true. Like the eugenics piece, that's true. All that's true. But I'm talking to him. I don't know what his sexuality is, but I'm a same-gender-loving person. The stuff that he's talking about, it's all in his head. It don't got nothing to do with me. Didn't no white man come and rape me. I didn't experience no pedophilia. I'm a human being that grew up and discovered who he was, like everybody else does, as they grew up as a human. These paranoid concepts he's come up with in these synthesis of a lot of different things that have some truth that he keeps throwing in a homosexual paranoid container, it's really just insane. And it's manipulative. Because, like I said before, some of the stuff is true. But like the brother said earlier in this call, who is from Africa, who don't have to be fantastical and make up stuff that pulls people in who are clueless. He's from the continent, and he was born and raised there, and he is seeing same-gender loving people places where white folks were not in the midst of his own community. So this is difficult to talk about without. I really wish we were face to face, as I really requested that we are, because it would be easier to have this conversation. But frankly, regardless of his execution, a lot of what he was saying is just a bunch of facts that are true about the destruction and the agenda to compromise black people that he's putting for whatever reason he has in some kind of homosexual container. But a lot of it does not match up as an absolute pattern. You could say that fried chicken with putting chemicals in it is hurting the community. We can go on and on and come up with all kinds of things that are happening. But one of the things that I know for a personal fact that's just not true is that who I am has something to do with a sexual white agenda, and that I am the product of some grown person raping me into homosexuality, and that somebody did some of these strange things that he's talking about that made me same-gender loving. Just like Being said earlier, there's tall people, short people, left-handed people, right-handed people. There's all kinds of people on this planet, including same-gender loving people. So a lot of people have creation stories, and some of them are very compelling. Somebody might find what he just said compelling, but a lot of what he's saying individually does have truth. He says something about the people want to bring homosexuality into schools. Well, that might be true. That has nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do with my belief. It has nothing to do with what I believe in. That's somebody else's agenda. And what these anti-homosexual so-called black nationalists always do to make their point is go to whiteness, white agendas, what white people have concocted, what white people have done, what white people are doing to black people. They can never come to a black source because their whole thing is paranoid and put inside of some scary movie white person story. And frankly, I'm sorry, a lot of what he's saying is interesting, and it can fool people in terms of his compelling delivery and that there's truth in it that we should be concerned about as a people. But as a whole, it's just mythological.
All right. Well,
not that there's not any. Let me say this again. Not that there's not any facts in it. Like you might be able to go to some 1972 document and see what he's saying, but so what? There's all kinds of documents that we can find, including with HIV and all kinds of things in terms of people's agendas to hurt black people. But that doesn't stop the fact that humanity is diverse. That doesn't stop the fact that pedophilia is something that's a mental illness, and that people, heterosexual and homosexual, are mostly totally separate from that dysfunction.
All right, now let me jump in here. Dr. Easton, I want you to, Brother Dr. Easton, since he stayed at the meeting, he can verify this. Since I'm making up stuff that doesn't have validity, Dr. Easton can verify this. We were in the meeting. Matter of fact, brother, I think you were there when this happened. You may have been. We talked to a brother from Haiti. We did not know this brother. We asked him, what's going on in our homeland of Haiti right now? What did that brother say? He said, matter of fact, Dr. Easton, could you finish that for me so that people don't think I'm making up? What did the brother from Haiti say is happening?
There was a brother from Ethiopia, too. His name is Obang. That's why I was confused about this Obang. Like, man, this couldn't be the same Obang I was talking to at the meeting who's from Ethiopia, who's saying that a homosexual agenda in Ethiopia where they're coming in, raping boys, wholesale. Right? So this is why I was confused on this cat named Obang. I'm like, this couldn't be the cat from Haiti. But even then, there was a cat from Haiti who told us, a group of us, of what the UN soldiers were doing, that boys, men in Haiti cannot walk the streets by themselves because of the UN and these homosexual agendas. Pedophiles, some of them, I don't know if they're, I'm not an expert on pedophilia, but what we do know is that they're raping black people. These are white men raping black people in countries where black people have very little power. So white people have set up shop all over the world to rape.
Let the man finish. We let you speak. See what you want.
But you make a connection. But this is irrelevant, though. This is irrelevant. This has nothing to do with the topic.
How is it irrelevant that people are raping black people? See, this is the thing. I want y'all to notice I'm talking about humanity. And this is why black nationalism and homosexual agenda cannot work together. We don't care about no humans. We Africans. We care about black people. He wants to say humanity. Why? Because the white agenda is to be homosexual.
No, brother. No. You can't speak for me. Irritated Genie, you can't speak for me. You can't speak for me. What I'm saying is that y'all putting together some stuff, some paranoid and madness that has no connection to the fact that same-gender loving people exist and are a part of the black community. This rapist stuff y'all talking about is true. This stuff is true. Black people are being raped. That's true. White people are sitting on shop all over the world exploiting and raping black people. That is true. Homosexual and heterosexual.
Okay, brothers, let's calm down. We are very passionate. We love our people. We love our points of views. But I want to hit these phone lines. People have been patiently waiting. They've been chopping up in the chat room. So I'm gonna go to.
Let me say this real quick because he said something. I just want to clear it up.
Okay.
I'll have something to say too, I'm sure, because he keeps throwing things together.
Wait. Let's be civil. Okay, brother Irritated, go ahead. Say we got to say. I'm going to go to the lines.
All right. What I'm saying is this. Homosexuals are in our community. Pedophiles are in our community. They're not part of our community, and they won't be part of our community.
Okay. I'm going to go to the lines right quick because people waiting. All right. Southern California, you want to talk? You live on the air. Southern California? Turn down your computer so you can talk. You want to talk? I guess Southern California won't want to talk right now. So we're going to go to West Tennessee. West Tennessee, you want to say anything? West Tennessee, they got their stuff turned up. Okay. I'm making my rounds. I'm going to guest number 23. Number 23, you're on the air. The brother who's been, or the sister, whoever's been talking in the chat room, making some good points. You're on the air now. Hello? Yes, 23. I guess they don't want to talk, but they've been chomping at the bit. Yes, 23? Okay, let me go to North Georgia. North Georgia, you on the air? You want to say anything? Now, these folks are quiet.
Okay. Can I say something real quick? I know you're going to go to the line, but
go ahead. I've been trying. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, and it's real quick. The reason people are getting quiet is because no one has had the opportunity to tell our people the truth. I, along with Brother Malinu Baruti, we're the two single experts on this issue on the planet. And what happens is we do not get opportunities to speak to our people directly to explain to them what's happening. Once they look at what's happening, they realize that they've been lied to. They got to take a step back to reconsider things, and that's why a lot of times people don't have a lot to say because they got to really think about this.
Okay, chat room question. Let me say chat room question is just to Brother Cleo. If all black people become gay, then what would happen? Somebody said that in the chat room. If all
that question I've heard a million times, and you know unfortunately it's another paranoid fantasy question. All black people are not going to become homosexual. Throughout time, homosexuals like left-handed people, particularly short people, particularly tall people, are not the majority. They are a relatively small amount of people compared to a larger amount of people who are right-handed. So that's not going to occur. I personally have no interest in that. I wouldn't want to live in a world like that. So the question is like saying, what if everybody was a chicken? I mean, it's not going to happen. So it's hard to answer questions that are based on outrageous hypotheses that are just not the case. Everyone's not going to become homosexual. I don't think that's possible. First of all, how are people going to reproduce? I mean, that's just not possible. I think we have a good amount of heterosexuality going on to keep things going and keep heterosexual people as well as new same-gender living people constantly being born. So I don't think that's going to occur. And I'm not interested in that occurring.
And, brother, if I can answer the question,
go ahead, brother.
If that happened, we would die as a race, brother. We would die.
Well, it's not going to happen, though.
Which is the European agenda to kill us, yes.
But one thing I wanted to say, as I said earlier, I don't know if it was heard because of the distortion, but I'm going to reiterate a point, and I can be brief. White supremacy has been having a war on black humanity, black existence, and black survival all of my life, and no doubt way before I was born. And white people have set up shop all over Africa, as well as Asia and India and every place else, so they can exploit. And that includes sexual exploitation. That includes exploiting men, women, and children, and whatever they can get their hands on. And this concern about white people or the gay community going to African communities spreading their agenda, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have no disagreement with there. And there's also people in our community who are inadvertently involved in some of these agendas, not knowing it, who have become white supremacist black folks because they don't realize that they've been played and that they're involved in that. But there's several people such as myself who are real clear and who know the difference between who they are and somebody else's agenda and will not get involved. And that goes beyond sexuality. Again, frankly, a lot of what Irritated Genie says is a interesting mosaic of real issues that some of it is far-fetched. Like he said about me, as if I don't know me, something about me being involved in some kind of sexual white agenda. That's complete BS. That's absolute BS. I'm the one living this life. I exist. I experience my life. I know what I'm about and what I do, and that's BS.
All right, I want to get in a brother who's been. I lost his contact. His brother Obang. Are you there, brother Obang?
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
man. Thanks for hanging in there. Go ahead.
Okay, I got disconnected. This brother is very, very dishonest. He's a danger to the African society. He talks about somebody from Ethiopia telling him that they are homosexuals raping African boys and girls. Maybe that is true. But from the way he's been talking, I think he's making it up. But even if it is true, you have to separate the people who are coming in, more than likely Europeans, from the Africans who have been there, who are gay, leading responsible gay life. You cannot throw everything in there and make a bogus argument. Another thing you mentioned earlier on, that some people with gay agenda find me and pay me to promote the homosexual agenda. I have not taken a dime. Nobody has approached me to promote the agenda for a dime. I am promoting my own book. I published the book, and I'm promoting it myself. Okay? So before you say stupid, dumb things like that, you've got to check your facts. You're not
let me say the facts.
Oh, be quiet. Let me finish, because I listen to your garbage.
Hold on, no. I'm not going to let you finish. You're not going to talk down to me like this. Listen, first of all,
and who are you?
The African continent. And who am I? I'm the foremost expert on this topic.
He's a paranoid brother.
No, wait a minute.
You have been on every African continent.
Listen. When listen to the difference between me and this. No.
Obing needs to finish.
I'm not going to let you finish. You're not saying anything. You're insulting me. I'm not going to let you finish. That's the answer. You need to really cut this off. You need to cut this guy off because Cleo called somebody up and told them, again, we're talking about these agendas. How is he going to call somebody up?
Because you have an agenda. You are promoting the agenda of the church, and somebody needs to face up to you.
Wait a minute. If you said
Irritated Genie must be really Genie.
Wait a minute.
I'm not waiting a minute. You're cutting me off.
How is he going to call somebody up from the African continent to say that homosexuality is okay when we know that the nations of Africa...
Because I know it is, because it has never been a problem. No, you wait a minute.
At the top of the whole nations of Africa, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Malawi, look it up online. They are...
You are an expert on African affairs?
They are.
When did you become an expert?
Wait a minute. They're fighting against...
He cut Obang off, Ron. He cut him off.
They're fighting against the homosexual agenda that's being promoted by a homosexual in office.
No, you are fighting the agenda of the church. The church.
Everybody, hold on, everybody, please.
Hold on, everybody. Wait a minute, brother. This guy starts insulting people. You gotta make a decision what you're gonna do. I never called him stupid or anything like that.
No, because you accuse me of taking money from somebody to promote the homosexual agenda
right now. Let me ask you. I want to stay focused. I don't want nobody to feel disrespected. I respect everybody on this phone call because y'all have the courage to show up and speak your mind and talk about. This is a very important topic that's not being discussed overly in our community because of lack of control of our media, a lack of control of our images, a lack of control of our knowledge flow. So when we have people like you all here that are concerned about our people, regardless of your personal whatever, I feel like everybody that's on this call that's listening to this show right now, they are very much concerned about black folks. We are all under attack here. So it was a question I want to get in the chat room. The chat room people are asking very interesting questions. Brother Obey, this is directed to you.
Yes.
Guest said, can you name the tribes in Africa where homosexuality was or is the norm?
Well, let me go back to the word tribe. We do not have the word tribe in our languages. It is the white man that introduced the word.
You asked him a direct question, and you want to the circular kind of conversation. Could you ask him to answer the question? I don't have to answer the question. No, let the man answer the question. The question is name the tribe. Name the group. Name the ethnic group.
He's saying that tribe is a white word.
Okay. White tribe is a white word. We are all one family. We are one people.
Name the ethnic group.
Oh, be quiet. We have always moved around the continent.
Let's take it down.
No, brother, listen. He's not answering the question. Make him answer the question. No, we don't need a long diatribe. He asked the question.
Who's the host of the show? Is Irritated the host?
No, wait a minute. Hold up. Well, question, okay, is it yes or no? Make it a yes or no answer. Let's make it a yes or no answer. Just get this.
No, it's not a yes or no answer. We are not involved.
It's not a yes or no answer.
Okay, well, say, Brother Irritated, disrespect the brother, let him get his piece. I know you've been quiet as everybody's been talking about.
This is what I'm asking. I just want to do that. I'm respectful. But help me out. He's not answering the question. The question.
I am answering the question, but you're not listening. You want to cut me off.
Brother.
That's what you want to do.
Let's let the brother Irritated. I'm going to let you speak. You're going to have your chance.
If we're here to learn something, then we have to know the language.
Listen, that's what I'm saying, bro. I hear what you're saying. I'm respecting. Just all I'm asking you to do is the host.
You're not respecting.
Wait a minute. The man asked the question. The man said, what
you are not respecting.
Wait, slow down. What ethnic group is the norm of
he speaks English. He knows what the question is.
Can he answer the question?
Well, I'm saying this, brother Irritated. I'm saying the person in the chat room took the time to think of this question. Even if he doesn't pass your litmus test of what, a definition of a tribe or whatever it is, let him have his say and let the people hear what he got to say, and we can make our own decision.
That's all. Okay, thank you.
I respect everybody. Okay, go ahead, brother.
Thank you. We are not one indigenous, we are not different tribes. We are one family, similar cultures. You find similarities among all the cultures within Africa. Until the white man came, we were not tribes. We were different family groups. So there is no such thing as one tribe that does this or that. No. Homosexuality was not an issue. Sexuality was never discussed within the African cultures until the white man came. People over here have made sexuality such an obsession that everything is looked at in the terms of the sexuality and what we do in bed and all of that. It is not. It is only a recent phenomenon. That is, you have especially the churches promoting Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and in their books, that's where all these homosexuality is banned. And so people are using that right now as a tool, a word to divide African people. Homosexuality is not a tool to have a fight against. I'm not going to tell you this tribe or that tribe because I have not gone and studied all the tribes, and neither have you. I lived on the continent for more than 25, 30 years. I don't know any of the different African groups that have a trouble with homosexuality, and I know you don't.
Okay, can I contribute now?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Let me tell you what the brother was asking. He's saying there's a group called the Zulus. There's a group called the Ga. There's a group called the Amharic. There's a group called the Wolof. There's a group called the Ashanti. There's any number of groups of African people on the African continent. We're all familiar with that. The brother's question was very simple. Is there one group in Africa that says that this is the predominant behavior in their culture? And the answer to the brother is absolutely not. To take it even further, every single group that I have talked to, any member of any group, is when you ask them the question, they get offended. They say it is not our behavior. That is that stuff that these Europeans are bringing over here, and they're trying to turn our people out. That's the answer to the brother's question.
Okay, Rob, can I respond to that? Somebody goes to Africa all the time.
Okay, go ahead, Brother Cleo.
First of all, what's not being considered in this fantasy land conversation that's being created is that every group that he just mentioned have been contaminated by King James, colonialism, and white Victorian perspectives of sexuality. Mm-hmm. All these groups, there's some groups, including in Zimbabwe, et cetera, where the legal system wears white wigs. They all look like RuPaul when it comes to dealing with legal proceedings. So none of these places have been not contaminated by Euro-Christianity, which is like what Obing said. Most of the perspectives of homosexuality that they have over there right now come from Christianity and from Catholicism and from Europe. Europe was the most vicious place against homosexuality in history, and they put some of that viciousness and anti-homosexual perspective in their religions, which every place that he's talking about is controlled by those religions. None of those places are purely African. So the context here is that whether it's Zulu, Ifa, or whoever they are, they're speaking English or broken English because of the fact, or Spanish or French, or Danish, or like the Afrikaans in South Africa, because of the contamination of white Europeans. Kabaka Mwanga, for example, who was same-gender-loving, a bisexual head of his country before white folks got there, was exiled, and his country was toppled, and one of the ways they did that was attacking his sexuality. So context is very helpful here, and often when Irritated Genie says what he just said, he don't bring in the fact that these Zulus and different tribes he's talking about are colonized. They're not purely African. And I'm going to finish. And interestingly enough, these colonized people are all in uniform saying, no, we frown upon homosexuality, because that's what King James taught them. King James taught all of them well, and they all speak in unison out of King James' voice because they all been influenced by him.
Yep. Now, brother, can I jump in here now?
Yes, go ahead, brother.
All right. Now, let me do the difference what he's doing. I'm going to give y'all fundamental facts that everybody out there can research. First of all, Europe was not the most anti-gay place in the history of the world. Europe is the base for homosexuality. Let me start from the beginning. Let's go to Plato, who was a Greek. Plato said in his Symposium that homosexual love between a grown man and a little boy is capable of satisfying a man's highest and noblest aspirations. And then he said, and the love between man and woman, when spoken of at all, is altogether inferior. It is a purely physical impulse whose sole object is procreation of life. In other words, for Europeans, the only concept they had before they came into Africa of sexuality and being in love, I'm not talking about sex for procreation, but the only concept they had of being in love was a grown man and a little boy, to the point where their god Zeus, look this up on the internet, brothers and sisters, Zeus and Ganymede, the ancient love story of Europe, was that the god Zeus, Z-E-U-S, descended on earth, turned himself to an eagle, and picked up the most beautiful little boy on earth named Ganymede, G-A-N-Y-M-E-D-E, took him to Mount Olympus and repeatedly sodomized him to make him his lover, making the white god a homosexual, a pedophile, bestiality, and a rapist. Okay?
Right.
Wait a minute. This is the context that the Europeans brought into Africa, and they didn't even know that a man could be in love with a woman until they came into Kemet on 332 BC under Alexander the Greek. And that was the first time in the history of Europe that they began to change statutes from love between two men to two women.
Okay, Rob.
Wait a minute. Where you go down?
Let me ask a question here.
Let me Irritated Genie finish. I think he's about to wrap
it up. Okay, I thought he was finished.
No, I'm not finished. Now, when he goes to talk about King James, let's get real with this. King James was a blatant homosexual and a pedophile.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Wait a minute. He was a homosexual and a pedophile. So when he talks about the influence that Europeans had in Africa, they did not bring anti-homosexuality. They're the ones that brought homosexuality. In fact, let me be more specific to the point. Cecil Rhodes, who was one of the main ones under colonialism to come in and destroy the African continent, was a vicious homosexual who used to routinely rape black boys and throw them off cliffs. This is from his documentation of what he would do. He had a lover, Neville Pickering. This is his white boy boyfriend, and they used to go around and rape little black boys. Now go research that one. Here's the information. What I'm saying is it's completely, absolutely inaccurate and false to say that Europeans are the ones that created anti-homosexual thought in Africa. How do you know for absolute certainty that that's not true? Here's the fact. Right now, every group of Africans on the continent will dispute almost every issue, but there's one thing that even the Uncle Tom Negroes that run countries in Africa agree with. We do not want homosexual culture in Africa. It is European culture. Get it out of here. And guess who's trying to force them to do it? Britain, white country. America, white country. And they're using Cleo Managos of the world, these black homosexuals, to try to push this agenda into black nationalism. It doesn't fit. We're not going to allow it in.
Okay, Ron, let me speak to this.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
Now, like I said before, this stuff that this brother's saying is just concocted fantasy. He just implied, I mean, he was saying stuff that was just crazy before he got to this part, but he just implied at the ending of his comment that Cleo Manago, me, who's on this phone, has some kind of connection of some way or how with the white gay community and some white man's agenda. Now, hey, I don't have a camera following me everywhere I go, so I can't prove what I do with my life on film every minute. Just like I don't know what Irritated did last night or getting ready to do. But I can tell you in no uncertain terms, without any kind of stuttering, that the stuff that he's talking about and the stuff that he rolled up and said and ended with my name is complete bull, and he don't know what the hell he's talking about. That's the first thing. The other thing is that what part of Africa did Greece, and this is to Isa, not to I don't want to give Irritated another room to go on another tangent, but I asked Isa this: what part of the continent did the Greeks colonize?
What's the basis of that question?
It's a question for an answer.
Well, I mean, what's the basis of
the basis is to get it. Okay, forget it. He won't answer the question. First of all, Europe, which is not as big as Africa, is also a huge place. Greece and Rome are not the only parts of Europe. There's also Germany. There's also Vienna. There's all kinds of things happening in Europe. And Europe has had long-standing insurrections, including in Germany, against homosexuality. Now, I'm not saying this because I have a great deal of care for that whole historical phenomena. I'm just putting the facts out there that this whole European great love for homosexuality, that is what backdrops the fantasy land that Irritated lives in, is just not true. Homosexual, the white gay movement and all of its defensiveness is fired up by the oppression of that community, including in the United States.
Yes.
Now, again, when it comes to how complex things are, that does not mean, because of all these anti-homosexual activities in Europe, that what Irritated is saying is not true in terms of people using homosexuality and anything else they can find to try to discombobulate and confuse black people into not being unified and focused and fighting loyally with each other against them. So that don't mean that there's no rape and no pedophilia happening on the continent. I believe that there is. Matter of fact, in some instances, I know about some things that are happening from the gay community where they're going to Africa doing some things that I don't approve of, that are exploitative, and that are the equivalent of cultural rape. I know that occurs. But again, this whole thing about every same-gender loving person that's born out of the African community being a spy for white folks is as ridiculous as me saying that heterosexual people, because there's a lot of heterosexual Uncle Toms, every time a heterosexual person is born, that's because somebody in Greece was heterosexual. It just makes no sense. And like I said before, when Irritated talks about people in Africa not approving, right now in Uganda, they're having a wholesale anti-homosexual movement over there where people have been killed. Guess who's behind that movement? To kill homosexuals. Okay, since nobody's answering, it's a white man named Scott Lively, who's from the United States, who's behind that movement. It's not an African movement. Before Scott Lively came over there and turned black people against black people based on sexual constructs, they were not trying to kill and murder same-gender loving people. White folks did that. In Ghana, where there's been a recent upsurge in anti-homosexual activity, white folks brought that there too. Just like white folks brought into Irritated Genie's brain his anti-homosexual reactionary behavior. It's also comes from Europe, because that's where anti-homosexual reality came from. Now he might be talking about Zeus and some captain who threw babies off the cliff. We can find stories that can go beyond reality around what people have done. And people can paint all kinds of pictures and sew together all kinds of things. But right now, it just be personal, because nobody else on this phone is identifying as a same-gender living person. I am. And I'm here to tell you that that Irritated Genie needs to find the pages that he can find, like he found that 1972 document. He's to show this audience some proof that Cleo Manago has any connection to a white gay agenda or white gay people. He needs to find those pages. Because he won't find them.
Can I ask something? I haven't been able to,
you know. Are you asking a question or you going to make a statement? Are you making a comment or are you asking a question?
Well, I want to ask a question.
All right, go ahead, Dr.
Okay. And this is based off of what Cleo just said.
Mm-hmm.
Cleo, I asked you in the beginning of the show, right? Whoever pays the piper controls the agenda. You said that you have raised $12 million to promote same-gender loving.
No, I didn't say that. See, that's where you're missing it. I didn't say that.
Cleo,
I didn't say that.
Cleo, I'm not arguing with you. You're the only one.
But I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Okay, then correct me once I finish.
All right, go ahead, Dr. Mm-hmm.
You're taking it so personal.
Okay.
No, but you're lying. But go on.
All right? I asked you. This is my question. All right? Who is funding you? Because we know black people are not funding you. And if black people are not funding you, that's who controls the agenda.
Okay, can I talk now?
Well, I'm going to interject. I got a guest, number 15, then a great facilitator and great person posing questions. This person said, well, Germany was a bunch of tribes during the days of the ancient Greeks. We can see that in the regions of Hannibal from Carthage. So we all got the internet access. We can look it up ourselves. But go ahead, Brother Cleo. Answer.
All right. First of all, and Jaheed did this before, and also to some extent Irritated has done the same thing, is finishing my sentences and corrupting my meaning of what I said with their paranoid fantasy. I never once said that I raised $12 million to push a same-gender loving agenda. I never said that. What happened was he asked me. He said he did some research on me and found out that I got a $2 million grant for a research project. And I told him, yes, I've raised lots of money. I've raised over $12 million. That's what I said. I didn't tell you what all those projects were about. I'll tell you that now before I get to the sources. They were raised. There was funding that I raised to help black women deal with weight control issues, to help black women and parents, typically heterosexual parents, by the way, raise black children in ways that were thoughtful and meaningful, and where they weren't calling them niggas and saying words that would traumatize them and teach them to hate themselves as young adults and adults. We had a program called the Watu Wajua Project. That was funded. We did work with trying to prevent sexually transmitted diseases among heterosexual women and black men at sexual risk, including brothers that have been to prison. So that's what. So matter of fact, very little of that resources was focused on so-called same-gender loving issues, but some of it was. Some of it was focused on same-gender loving men to be healthy, because the whole community should be healthy, and that includes men, women, and children, heterosexual, same-gender loving, and my work takes care of the whole community. So I didn't get $12 million to serve one group. I got $12 million over time. All of my work has always been multi-family, multi-community based. I've never been a gay activist or somebody who focused just on homosexuality in my whole career. Today, we're talking about homosexuality because you guys want to. Just like at the meeting in Atlanta, we talk about homosexuality because somebody on this phone talked about it. I wasn't talking about it. Now let's get to the sources. The sources of my...
Go ahead, Brother Cleo.
The sources of the work that I do come from my personal business, comes from the Center for Disease Control, comes from the fact that black people who work for big foundations made sure that the work that I was doing for black people was resourced, so I could have the resources to do the work that I do. 90% of the resources that I have came as a result of black decision makers and advocacy from me working with black people, and I know how to do it well. So that's what that's about. It has nothing to do with some white man telling me what to do. Matter of fact, I turn down funding up into the millions all the time, because not all money is good money. And some money is not helpful to black people at all, and I don't care how much money it is. I'm not going to take it if it's not going to be helpful, and I'm not going to be played by nobody, and nobody's going to make me do what I don't want to do for black people. Now, if you want to have a conversation, and I'm serious when I say this, Jaheed, I'm very serious. If you want to have a conversation offline about ways to raise resources that don't sell black people out and get some work done, I'd be glad to share it with you. And I'm serious about that. But no, nobody's paying Cleo Manago to do nothing that's going to be hurtful to black people, period. Just got finished turning down $2 million because somebody was trying to buy me. I can't be bought.
So you brought up Cleo, you unbought and unbossed like Shirley Chisholm, huh? So it's like
I guess so.
And let me jump in here now. I want to say this. For anybody out there that has any questions about what the agenda is, two things I want you to do. Mm-hmm. One, there's a video called The Effeminization of the Black Male Part 2. You can watch the entire video for free on YouTube. The reason I want you to watch it is because there was an individual named Baird Rustin who was the #1 black individual. He was a vicious homosexual, and he was the one that fought the hardest against, from the inside, against the Black Power movement. He destroyed Martin Luther King. He attacked SNCC. He attacked the Nation of Islam. He attacked the Black Panther Party. He attacked every single black institution that was fighting for our independence and freedom. Secondly, so you'll see how the homosexual agenda works politically. You'll begin to understand that, too, so that we don't have to have disputes about this. If you want to know what Cleo Manago stands for, go to YouTube and put in Cleo Manago. What will come up will be videos of him talking while he's being interviewed on a gay TV show, and he will tell you right then and there what his agenda is. Then on the webpage, put in Cleo Manago in your web browser and research that. And you will see him. He says he's not a political activist, but you'll see him speaking at the Million Man March, talking about he's representing the rights of same-gender lovers. And that's all he talked about for the time that he was up here. When you watch this other video from YouTube, it's called Cleo Manago, episode 205, part 3 and 4. He will definitively state what he's doing and will show what he's doing with these organizations. And then we don't have to have any disputes about whether his agenda is to help black people or to promote homosexuality within the black community.
And let me respond to that. I have to, because he's talking about me. I agree with him in terms of that people should do their own research. I think that's a good idea. And if people have any questions regarding what they find, they can contact me at cleomanago@gmail.com and ask any further questions. When I went to the Million Man March, I was asked to go there as a same-gender-loving black family member to talk about those issues. That's why I talked about those issues. On the show that he's talking about, that's their show and their channel, and they asked me, just like you today asked me to be on your show, they asked me to be on their show, and I responded to their questions. Like I said before, in many cases when I'm talking about this issue, it's because somebody asked me to, and I'm willing to talk about it because I can talk about the issue. Something else that Irritated said in this early conversation, God, what was it? I was in his first comments. God, I forgot what it was. What did you say? What was the first part of what you said, Irritated? You remember?
The Effeminization of the Black Male Part 2, Baird Rustin.
Oh, yeah. Like I said earlier, he can send you to whatever he want to send you to. Oh yeah, Baird Rustin was one I was responding to that too. But I'll talk about the feminist thing. When you see that, people make videos all the time. There's Star Wars, there's all kind of stuff. That doesn't have nothing to do with Cleo Manago at all. Now I giggle when he mentioned Baird Rustin, because some of us on this phone have talked about articles about me. One that's called The Most Dangerous Black Gay Man, which I didn't create. I don't even call myself gay. Another one about the gay separatists or whatever, the queer separatists, which had nothing to do with me, which I didn't create. One of the many reasons why the white gay community and the black indoctrinated gays don't like about me is my critiques of Baird Rustin. Because they try to marginalize James Baldwin, who was a black freedom fighter, a same-gender-loving black freedom fighter, but the white gay community and their black gay hanger-oners are always lifting Baird Rustin up. And I have said the same thing and have gotten trash for it, that Baird Rustin did not like black people. And Baird Rustin was against anything that was pro-black. As a matter of fact, a lot of Baird Rustin's so-called civil rights activity was not on behalf of black people, but he wanted all policies out of the way so he could get his hands on some white folks, particularly some white men, because he loved them. But it looks on the outside like activism for human rights, but it was activism for human white folks. So saying that, which I've been saying for years, is one of the many reasons why they keep me, and I'm not mad about it, on the outside of the white gay paradigm. I understand what you said about Baird Rustin, and again, like in a few other instances, I totally agree with you. But what I disagree is your very creative and manipulative way of putting all these things together, which only make sense to you and whoever will listen to you, which are not necessarily connected.
Well, let me say this, and to speak to that, because I got to say something. The host said this earlier, and since you brought them up, I want to prove, because I want people to hear this. I'm not coming with speculation again. I'm not talking these are all things that you can verify. The both of you brothers, mentioned something about James Baldwin. Now, let's talk about James Baldwin for a minute. Right. James Baldwin, again, another black person pretending to be pro-black, whose full objective was the homosexualization and the assault of African people. Let's start off where he started. You study James Baldwin's career. It was Richard Wright that helped get James Baldwin exposure from nothing. In France, he helped this guy. What was the first thing that this guy did when he got a little bit of exposure? He wrote a scathing criticism of Richard Wright, which got the whites to start loving him, and now he was able to come back to America to have audience because the whites didn't like Richard Wright because he was speaking out against racism. Then what did he do? Then this vicious homosexual went even further and talked to William Styron, the author of the Nat Turner book, the book about the life of Nat Turner. And this is what he told William Styron. He said, this Black Power movement is gaining a lot of ground because they believe in this leader that was a very masculine black leader, Nat Turner, who went out on behalf of black liberation and killed white folks. He said, why don't we take this theme out of this black nationalism thing? Why don't you write a book about Nat Turner's life and make Nat Turner a homosexual? And then we'll make that a big thing. And when people go to find Nat Turner, that is the icon that they're using to build this movement, what we will do is pull the legs out from under him, because when the people read about him, he'll become a homosexual. So what that means, either these young men who read this book will either read about Nat Turner and find out that he's a homosexual and think that homosexuality is cool and attach that to liberation, or they'll say, oh, Nat Turner's gay, man, I don't want to have nothing to do with that. And so we can take the wind out of the sails of nationalism. And he did it at the same time he was on the forefront, acting like he was working for black people. Behind the scenes, he's working with this white individual, putting out this madness on our people. Just like on the
I must admit.
Wait a minute. On the surface, Cleo saying he's doing all of this stuff. But wait a minute. Wasn't it Dr. Easter that said, wait a minute, didn't you get a $2.3 million from the CDC, Center for Disease Control, which is the one that pumped the AIDS and all of the Ebola and all of this death to our people around the world? Now, let me ask you a question, brothers and sisters. If y'all listen, think about this. Why would the CDC, one of the most racist organizations in this society, give a black person money to help some black folks? You know they wouldn't do that. Go ahead. Somebody else want to say something?
Well, first of all, that's an interesting story that you told about the gayification of Nat Turner. I've never heard that before. And seriously, if one of your people or somebody, let me know, I can go find that. That's news to me. I'm not saying it's not true, because I wouldn't put nothing past white supremacy. But it would be interesting to see. But I have never heard that in my life. But I cannot defy it, because I don't know anything about that. Now, frankly, some of the specifics around the CDC project, I'm not comfortable talking about on this phone because it goes beyond just me. But I can tell you that I'm not being played. And the CDC, like the treasurer, is a federal, like probably who you work for too. I don't know what you do, Irritated, but we use money and white supremacy money to live. That don't mean we become the money that we use to live and go get some food in terms of the source of it, which is the belly of the beast. It's a difference between using money and being used by money. And nobody uses me. And it's interesting, this perspective, because without getting into the whole thing, and I told Jahi this in one of our last conversations, I think you would be amazed at the hell I've gone through and the battles that I have fought and I'm still fighting in the midst of being an American citizen and attempting to use taxpayers' resources to fund my work and keep it going. It's been hell. The attacks and attempts to shut me down would blow your mind, because I'm not on their team, and I have some skills, and they prefer people with the kind of skills like I have to either be dead or on their team. And there's some things that I can't get into because of the combativeness of this conversation and the lack of support on this conversation in some instances. For me to get into that would be a waste of time. But if we ever had a real conversation, not about homosexuality, not unless we're talking about combating the pedophilistic stuff you're talking about and the attacks on black children in life by homosexuals and heterosexuals and everybody else that's happening on the continent, I'm very willing to have that conversation. You mentioned something in Atlanta about somebody passing DVDs out to children in Africa. I would work with anybody to stop that because I'm not down with that. But the point I'm making is that there's a whole lot of things going on with me that's ironic as hell, given some things you guys are saying. And yes, the CDC has a history of doing all kinds of stuff, and both good and bad. You know, if they were doing nothing but bad, I think hopefully I would like to think that they would be out of business. But whatever they're doing that's bad, I'm not involved. I'm not involved at all.
I want to be clear with people. I'm not saying that the CDC told them what to do. Listen to what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what Cleo says his agenda is. Anybody that is supporting black men instead of having black women as wives and creating families is supporting an agenda that the whites want, which is the homosexualization and feminization of African males. My point is not what they talk to him about. That's not important. What I'm saying is, why are they giving him money? Whether he agrees with it or not, he can't talk his way out of it. The agenda, even being someone, a male who lays down with other males, is a degenerate. It's not African culture. It's absolutely unacceptable. There's nothing Pan-African about it. Pan-African means Malcolm X. He was not a homosexual. It means Marcus Garvey. He was not a homosexual. It means Ida B. Wells Barnett. You got to understand. Remember, they tried to pull her into this lesbian stuff. Susan B. Anthony and them. When he says we haven't been fighting homosexuality, that is not true. From the time we were brought on those slave ships, whites have been trying to force homosexuality down the throats of African people. And black women have said, black man, stand up, don't go out like that. And so we push strong black manhood. Now our people are lost and caught back on the 1970s and 1980s battlefield with a new battlefield that is not just trying to kill us physically, but it's trying to go inside of us and make us so crazy that they think I would negotiate with some homosexual on the phone about can we work together. We cannot work together to do anything because you're not one of us. If you you are out here promoting this type of misbehavior that black people in their right sane mind find reprehensible and destructive, and it's the ugliest aspect of European existence. Why are the whites so ugly to us? Because they murder, they destroy, but what makes them the ugliest? They rape, they're homosexuals, they're pedophiles, they're sick sexual degenerates that destroy cultures like they've done in the Philippines, like they're doing in African countries. We do not accept this kind of misbehavior, and ain't no way to talk your way in. You're not a Pan-Africanist. You're not a black nationalist. You're a degenerate that is promoting degeneracy, and you cannot get in, is what I'm saying to you.
Okay, well, it's a good thing, but no, see, you can't say that kind of stuff to me. You can't. I mean, sorry, you let him talk. And he's talking about Cleo Manago.
We'll wrap it up, right?
Okay, let me just say this.
Last person to say something. Okay, go ahead. Last person to say something on this call.
One thing that I think is important for callers to hear, I'm reiterating that regardless of how compelling to somebody, I would imagine, that Irritated is, even at the meeting that we were at in Atlanta, he was outvoted in terms of who was going to support who. I'm still a part of the group, but there's not everybody black, including die-in-the-wool black nationalists, agree with what this stuff that he's putting together and throwing together and this paranoia that he's doing. So I never asked to work with him. I never asked him for permission to be a black nationalist or whether I am or not. I wonder what he is, frankly, particularly when he wouldn't say what he felt about me in my face in Atlanta. So we're a diverse community, thankfully. A lot of us think rationally and actually figure things out and do research and talk to each other face-to-face. And I'm inviting everybody on this phone to have a face-to-face where we actually have no choice but to listen to each other and back up our perspectives in rational ways. It's difficult to do that on the phone because of all the technical difficulties, but this conversation needs to occur again in ways where we can actually talk about it better, because there's a lot of misinformation, and it's unfortunate that Irritated is so involved in his homosexual obsession, but hey, he has a right to do what he wants to do. And Cleo Manago is not being bought by nobody. I'm not for sale. I'm about my community, and I don't need no permission to do that. I've been doing it all my life, and that's who I am.
Well, Brother Cleo Manago, I want to thank you, and Brother Dr. Jahi Issa, and Brother Obang, and Brother Irritated Genie. I want to thank y'all for this wonderful conversation. We need to continue this, but the problem is, the question was at the beginning of the show was, can black liberation and homosexuality, are they compatible? And I guess right now, as it stands, it looks like it's not at this moment, but we are continuing dialogue, and this is bigger. This is a very important topic. If it wasn't, we wouldn't have all this activity in the chat room. We would have all this passion from everybody concerning these issues. And I'm gonna say it like this, this ain't gonna be easy to do, but it must be done. We must confront these issues that have been traumatized in our community as it concerns self-identity, self-determination, things of that nature. But we must continue this dialogue. And people say, well, what does it got to do with black liberation? This has everything to do with black liberation. This has everything to do with that. So I want to thank you all for being on this call. This will be archived for people to listen to. You can go back to the same link. This will be out there for y'all to listen to. And please disseminate among your networks. So Brother Cleo Manago, Brother Irritated Genie, Dr. Issa, and Brother O'Bain, thank y'all so much for sharing y'all points of views and giving people some food for thought. I appreciate you all.
Brother. Thank you.
God bless, man. Everybody.